Airbnb is out with its 2023 winter release, the platform introducing new upgrades to help set better expectations for guests before booking. This comes as Airbnb progresses in laying out a foundation for differentiating offerings for its hosts and guests. To dig into all of this, we've got Airbnb CEO Brian Chesky with us here on set. Tight quarters, Brian, but appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you for having me here. It's great to talk to you.
Let's talk about the winter release, because you are coming on the back of a year where you've talked about really reassessing the core of the business. How does this winter release address that and some of the issues that you saw pop up?
Yeah, I think that over the last 2 years, we've been listening to feedback from our guests and hosts, and we want people to love our service. So we made over 350 upgrades and improvements to our service. The final frontier is reliability. We have over 7 million homes around the world. Many of the guests say what they love about Airbnb the most is that every home is unique, it's one of a kind. But the problem is that, well, it's one of a kind, so you don't always know what you're gonna get. Guests have described checking Airbnb sometimes as a moment of truth, where you find out if the home you booked is the home you thought you booked. And this is the #1 reason people book hotels. They like the reliability. So we asked, well, what if we could combine the uniqueness of an Airbnb with the reliability that you're more familiar with from a hotel? And that's what we've done. We took over 370 million reviews and a history of customer service calls and contacts. We've created a collection over 2 million of the most loved homes in Airbnb according to our guests. So that product is called Guest Favorites. And I think if you come to Airbnb, you see a guest favorite, you're gonna be happy with it, I think, every single time. So that's the big update we have.
You've talked a lot about some of the issues that you have seen pop up within your core business. Over the last year, you've been quite open about it, saying that, look, coming out of the pandemic, looking at where Airbnb is, the foundation wasn't necessarily as strong as you had hoped. Are you confident with all the issues you've addressed going into 2024, where you've talked about sort of this big product pipeline that we're likely to see?
Absolutely. Not only do I think we have a great foundation, but I think we've made more improvements than probably almost any other company in travel. I mean, 350. And many of these things are things that we're doing and no one else is doing. Like upfront pricing. You can see a toggle that turns on a total price display right on the homepage. It's more prominent than other travel sites. So we're trying to really do things that other sites aren't doing.
Let's talk about where travel is right now. We've heard from the likes of Marriott who say, look, travel demand is still strong. It's still very resilient, even if consumers are cutting back in other areas. What are you seeing right now? It's
still strong. I mean, we had a record Q3. We've done over $4.2 billion of free cash flow in the last year. We had a record revenue, it grew 18% year over year. And I think that's partly just because of how strong travel is. I also think, though, that's because of how much people really love our service. 90% of our traffic is unpaid or direct. We don't need a loyalty program to get people to come back to us. Our loyalty is people love our service.
With that said, you have had to address issues about the additional fees that are out there, cleaning fees, service fees. Yes, you have increased transparency as well. Have you seen that change the experience for the platform? What are you hearing from consumers, and are you confident that that's not necessarily a barrier for Airbnb right now?
Well, I think we've made a lot of progress. Just to give you a stat, today, prices in North America are down 3% year over year on Airbnb. For hotels in North America, they're up approximately 10% year over year. So the trend line is good. We got a lot of feedback last year. Based on that feedback, we made a lot of improvements. We created better tools for hosts. Over 1 million hosts have used this tool where they can see how much money other people make in their area. That has led to, I think, more competitive pricing. So we're always trying to take feedback from our guests and our hosts. When we get that feedback, we're relentless at trying to address it. We're always going to be improving our service, but I think that we have now turned the corner. I think starting in 2024, you're going to see new things from Airbnb because we're ready to innovate beyond what people know from us.
So let's talk about what that product pipeline could look like. You've talked a lot about the promise of generative AI. As you think about the products that are coming to market that Airbnb can offer come 2024, how does that integration at its core open things up for the company? What are the products we're likely to see?
Well, I think we should think of generative AI like a platform shift, maybe similar to the mobile phone platform shift in 2008, 2009, 2010. And that platform shift unlocks so much opportunity. I'll give you one example. It used to be very difficult to get in touch with a host before the mobile phone. You would message somebody, you'd book, and you have to wait for them to go home and check their email. But with a mobile phone, suddenly they can message you right away. Generative AI is going to be so much broader than that. It's going to unlock so many different types of businesses. It's going to allow Airbnb to be like the ultimate travel agent. We can be way more personalized. We can understand what you need every part of the travel journey. We can be in the business of not just search, but matching you to homes, experiences, other types of services. I think it's going to open the door.
The ultimate travel agent, is that what Airbnb is aiming for? Because I'm thinking back to before the pandemic. There were a lot of, you added experiences, there were questions about whether in fact Airbnb could become sort of that one-stop shop beyond just stays. Is that what you're going for now? And does generative AI allow you to go there, accelerate the process with fewer resources?
Generative AI absolutely allows us to do what we were set out to doing earlier significantly better. As far as what we're going to do, you'll have to stay tuned, but there's some really, really big things coming.
I mean, how much value does that unlock? I heard you say recently in an interview that you think experiences alone could be a $100 billion business.
Yes, and I'm not saying that we can do it. And I'm not saying when that's possible. People have asked me, how big is the experiences market? I think it's completely massive. And the reason why is like the mall is now Amazon, the theater is now Netflix. Not as many people like go out and they spend time in community spaces. I think we're living in one of the loneliest times in human history. I think people are looking for ways to meet people and to be able to gather around the world. And I think that this is going to be a huge opportunity for a company to do. I don't know if we figured it out. I don't know if another company has. So I think it's going to be a very long game, and we'll see if somebody figures it out.
Finally, let me ask you this, because we are in New York City, where you have said there is an effective ban, that the city has placed restrictions on Airbnb. It's got to be more than 30 days in order for a host to be able to, or for those to be able to host guests. Is there an active conversation that's happening with the city? Is there a potential for a reversal, just given Airbnb's impact on this market?
Well, we've had conversations for 13 years. In 2010, these conversations started. In the period of time, those 13 years, we've been able to work out sensible regulations with hundreds of cities all over the world. Paris has figured this out, London, LA, Chicago. We can go down the list of cities, and they all have different solutions. Unfortunately, I don't see a near-term path because I don't see a huge appetite from the city's perspective to try to, allow Airbnbs in the city, and that's unfortunate. But we're going to do our very best. I think people can find boutique hotels in New York City on Airbnb. If you want to stay longer than a month, you can still book an Airbnb. And a lot of people are starting to book in New Jersey and other areas because you know why? It's like just too expensive for a lot of people. Not everyone can pay $500 for a room here.
What do you think happened though in New York? I mean, you had these conversations going. You've had conversations with other cities. You've been able to work out some kind of, not necessarily a workaround, really just come to an agreement.
Yeah, we're in 100,000 cities. We've been able to work it out. There's only one large city in the world we were not able to come to a resolution in, and that's the city we're in right now.
Why?
I think that there wasn't it's just, I don't know. We've done our very best, and we're always willing to come to the table. It's been really difficult. Like, we are willing to collect from a hotel tax. If people are worried about affordable housing, cities have solutions where they can require a registration system. They can limit the number of nights people are renting. They can require them to list only their primary dwelling. Cities around the world have come up with solutions to be able to solve this problem. And, we're always open to discussions.
And just final question, because the argument for those who have been in favor of this de facto ban is that Airbnb listings are bringing up rents. They're bringing up prices.
So if that's true, well, if that's true, and if Airbnb housing was raising rents, and now it's de facto banned, that would mean housing prices would go down. So let's check out. Well, have me back, and let's ask me if the housing prices have gone down.
Okay, we'll have to have you back. Brian Chesky,
Thank you.
Good to have you always. Appreciate you joining us on set here.
Thank you.